Um, let's talk about what this letter writing is about. Write a love letter to ourselves. This love letter couldn't be wrong. So you could get the letter in 10 months and be reminded of something you thought of today. Hopefully you would remember it in between. But if like many people, you have ups and downs during your year, perhaps this letter would arrive to you when you need it most. And that you would be reminded of who you really are by this practice of self-love. And hopefully this January will be the beginning of a practice of self-love in a deeper, more profound way anyway. Because really when it comes down to it, we do so much to get the approval that we want, so much to be loved, and yet often even when we get it, it doesn't penetrate past the skin because we have this armor of our own self-talk that keeps it from getting through. The first thing you should do is address yourself in the third person, which I found to be an interesting thing, but apparently it's easier to get through to you if someone else is saying it. You don't associate love and happiness and joy with your name. Put another name on there. Loved one, cherished one, oh, beautiful and dear one. And then to get in the mood, remember a time when everything went well, when you had a really great experience. The emotion of that success. Bring it up so that when you start to address yourself, you address yourself with this degree of respect and remembering that all can feel. And then I want you to praise your qualities. And some of us will foolishly say, I don't have anything, blah, blah, blah. Not true. Everybody's got something. Think of the simplest things. You know how to feed yourself. You know how to walk and talk. That didn't all come automatically. You had to work at it. And then work up from there. You'll have some really fantastic qualities. You have helped hundreds, thousands of people in your lifetime. You have been courteous. You have been tender to people when they needed it. You, et cetera, et cetera. You have much to be praised. And then one of the more subtle things about us is that we are multi-layered. As you probably know from personal experience, there is always a child that lives within us. There's also an adolescent. There's a emerging strong person. There's also those beings that tend to be afraid and some that have more courage. We are multifaceted inside ourselves. So in this time, the one that seems to need it the most is usually the child. And perhaps you'll find that by taking that child onto your lap or into your arms as you write this, you might find that there's a certain tenderness that brings out in you and a certain comfort that comes to the child as you do that. Before you finish writing the letter, you could do it with bullet points, you could do it with a long list, you could do it in a flowing way of writing, but tell yourself why you love yourself. Make a list, make it obvious. Don't keep a secret from yourself. What is it you love about yourself? If you're like most people, the world has probably dealt you a few reasons why you shouldn't love yourself. It has told you what's wrong with you. You have been told by your parents, maybe your friends, maybe certainly your enemies, and it's extremely toxic when you compare yourself to others in a disfavorable way. I think it's actually distancing if you compare yourself in a favorable way, too. When you say, at least I'm not like that, at least I'm better than this, at least you're beginning to put distance between you and the other person. But if you do it in reverse, where you say, I'm not as good as so-and-so, you're putting distance between yourself and yourself. And it's harder to love yourself when you have this distancing. Intimacy is what we're looking for, a loving, intimate relationship with yourself. And if you don't have a loving, intimate relationship with yourself, how can you expect to know how to handle yourself in public? You'll either be too shy, too boastful. You'll be pushing or running away inappropriately. Because this self-love, which is the home that we have been looking for, the security that only we can give, if we don't have that, if we don't have that self-assurance, we're either trying too hard or we're running from the possibilities. The way we talk to ourselves is the beginning of how we act in the world. This practice of self-love is foundational for actually being able to love your neighbor as yourself. If you don't love yourself, how are you going to love your neighbor? How are you going to love your spouse? How are you going to be the good parent you want to be? How are you going to be the good child to your parent? If you don't practice self-love. And the way we do it is we choose to love ourselves independent of our success, our finances, our waistline, and our acclaim. We choose to just plain love ourselves no matter what. How do we make room for the divine to shine from within when we're saying, you're not worthy, you're not good enough? And the flooding in of that divine or higher self, that love from above, is coming in through us because we open the door. And once it's in, it can go out. You can be love made manifest in the world if you have loved yourself. There is no benefit for being a hard ass on yourself. Lighten up. Love up. Maybe we make corrections, of course. We're not perfect. We want to do better. Of course we do. And sometimes you do have to have a scolding, but get over it. And get on with the practice of holding yourself not in contempt, but in love. And let that be who you are. Celebrate your successes. Nothing wrong with being victorious. But when you have failed, love yourself anyway.